Hawks are doing.
That was gonna be my next question. When you first seen the reports coming out, my initial thought was like Trae probably got to be next because I didn't see the Dyson Daniels thing at first, but it was like Larry Nance at 2 first. It sounded like you're just trying to sell stuff and get your draft capital back. But then also it's just like they were saying Dejounte Murray and his people like it just didn't work out in Atlanta, so they were looking to move him. So I really don't know if they want to keep being competitive or it's just like they're really trying to sell because I see people saying like Trae Young could be on the move too.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be mad at Trae Young being on the move, but also let's just run it one more time with him being the lead guard and not having to share the court with Dejounte and just see where we go. Like I feel like there's a room where you could probably just still develop those guys next to Trae Young. He's such a good facilitator, such a good team guy that like I think you could still develop your young talent while Trae Young is playing.
Did DeJounte hurt the team so much that they didn't have the year last year that they could lose him for that package and then make the playoffs next year?
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what is their?
I don't think it's a hurting
problem.
I think it's a chemistry thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what is the starting lineup? It's Trae
I don't
Young.
think they're done. I don't think they're done. There's no way that they're done.
I don't think they're done.
I mean, from this perspective, because they may not be done. Hopefully, they're not. I would hope so, but we don't know what they're gonna have. So all I can really count on is this being a big portion of the team, which is Trae Young, Jalen Johnson, Zachary Richardson, Dyson Daniels. I don't know what's going on with Clint Capella because he was made available with Brandon Ingram. Same with DeAndre Hunter.
Yeah.
And you have Bogdan Bogdanovic.
Yeah. And isn't Bogdan a free agent?
No.
Oh,
going into his last year. I don't think this is bad value for Dejounte Murray. Everybody and their grandma knew that Dejounte Murray couldn't be an Atlanta Hawk next season, that one of the two was going to get traded. So if we all know sitting here, then every general manager in basketball knows too. They replenish the draft picks they gave away. Obviously, this is what makes it difficult because you think about trading Trae Young. You don't have your own first-round pick in 2025, so trading Trae Young and trying to tank doesn't make sense because you're just giving that pick to the Spurs. But they gave up 2 to get DeJounte. They gave up 2 to get rid of him. They also got Dyson Daniels, so y'all know I'm a big fan of Dyson Daniels. I don't know how he fits in Atlanta, but just like a 21-year-old big wing who defends well, can play some guard, whatever. I don't think this is bad value. I do question, what the direction is because you also traded A.J. Griffin for a 40-something overall pick, even though he wasn't really in a rotation with Quinn Snyder. I know some Atlanta Hawks fans didn't love who they took at number 1. So, the direction is questionable. But if I'm thinking about just Dejounte Murray as a value piece, I think they got decent value for him.
I think this is one of those trades where I think both sides came out of here as a W. I think they both equally got something that's positive for the team. I don't think either team fleeced the other.
I just don't know what the Hawks are doing. Yeah. I'm not talking about
there's a huge talent disparity. The team that won the trade as far as talent goes, easily the Pelicans. But
when you're talking about adding Dyson Daniels, who can come in and add just a good point forward type vibes. He could do a little bit of everything on the court for you.
More than anything, he's a point of attack defender, something they haven't had
and
for
then
2
he
years.
could do that. Yeah, he could be your POA. And I think that you get a nice young piece that you could develop, and you got 2 draft picks back. And then I think for the Pelicans side, you get a legit point guard next to Zion for the first time.
Absolutely.
And I think that's phenomenal.
For sure. My thing is, though, if you're developing him, Zachary Richardson, and all these other guys, what does that mean for Trae Young? I think Trae Young has kind of made it clear on his podcast that he's not trying to be on a developing team.
Yeah, it really depends on Trae Young walking into that office.
Yeah.
Honestly, because what you said is completely true. He just watched what Luka Doncic did. I remember him liking all of those tweets and Instagram pictures of Luka Doncic's path. How I remember there was an Instagram post where what Luka Doncic's team looked like 2 years ago versus now and how they got to the finals. And obviously them trading together, their careers are kind of attached to each other to some way. And how his team was able to build around him. And he mentioned on his podcast, he wants to play for a winner. Mm-hmm. So it's just a matter of can he see the vision that Landry Fields and them are putting together, or will he walk into the office and say, I don't see it, just get me out of here now, and you can build around Richardson and Dyson Daniels and all of the other young players. It's really going to be up to him.
Yeah.
Because he's under contract for the next couple seasons, a lot of money left on it. But he's going to be a guy that if he walks into the office and they made him available, teams will call because he's that talented of an offensive player. The only thing is when you trade for Trae Young, you're not trading for the talent piece. You're trading for everything. Trae Young, I won't say has to be, but the only version we've seen of Trae Young is him being your system.
Yeah.
And maybe he could evolve where it's not that.
They were also saying that's why it was DeJounte instead of Trae, just because it was a little bit easier to make the trade happen, contractually and everything that was going on with it. Just it's a large thing to take on Trae.
It was rumored that Dejounte Murray had more trade value on the open market. I saw that and heard that several times.
his contract isn't as much as Trae Young's, and I still think he brings you so much value on both sides of the court.
Really,
It's like, yeah,
it's been a few years for that man sat in that chair.
but he definitely can.
And we
That
said
was
that
one of-
when they traded for
That
him
was
for
one of the
2 years.
biggest things for me of him going to the Pelicans is I think they have a defensive culture there. And I think because you have somebody like Herb Jones, he doesn't necessarily have to be your number one defender on the perimeter. And I think maybe that could reignite what we've seen, especially because the offensive burden won't be as large as it was.
And I also feel like when you're playing for a team that ain't really defending, you're not going to defend.
No defensive culture.
Yeah.
No defensive
He
culture at
played
all.
with Pop where there's a defensive culture, a defensive-minded coach.
He also didn't have the load offensively when he was made an all-defensive team.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he was playing with DeMar. Yeah.
But I don't know. The Pelicans have some big decisions though. Like they have too much talent.
Too much.
It's like, is CJ McCollum a 6 man all of a sudden now?
No.
I think he starts next to Dejounte.
Then who? Okay,
Herb Jones goes to the 3.
and then Brandon's at the
Zion.
4 because Brandon's on the roster right now.
Yeah, you're right. Fuck.
So somebody has to come off the
Yeah,
bench.
yeah.
You're not benching Herb Jones.
Yeah.
He is that defensive coach you talked about. You're not benching Zion, obviously. If Brandon Ingram's around, he's not coming off the bench.
And you didn't trade for DeJounte.
You're
going
going
to go off the
to have a
bench.
$30 million man coming off the bench? Like
Yeah.
that's why I feel like there's still more to be done because obviously they don't have a center on the roster other than Yves Messi or Messi. So
But
like,
that's why the blinds point to me to the Brandon Ingram thing. I don't think you do this trade and it just goes away. That Brandon,
No, yeah,
I think
that's-
Brandon Ingram's
yeah.
still on the move. It's
He
been
just
reported
pivoted.
since the offseason started that he's one of the that's their priority is to move him this offseason. So I
I thought
don't
their
think there's
priority.
other window.
They tried to extend him. He didn't like the contract.
now they trying to reach a middle ground.
Yeah, I think, and that might be a leverage play. Not letting the world know that you're still trying to move him. Like, hey, we're still working out negotiations. Even when they after the draft, you know, how every team puts their like press conference together. David Griffin was asked about Brandon Ingram. He was like, "Man, we want to keep him more than anything. We're still trying to figure out that contract." And that could be just baloney, as you know, try to keep some leverage, or that could be the truth. I mean, Brandon Ingram's a really good player.
Yeah. I can understand both sides, but honestly, with the depth that you have, it don't even make sense to honestly keep him at this point.
You know what I really do feel? If they did keep him, this team is not going to be as good as we think it will be. Because I feel like they have so many people that create, that like if you trade him for a center, let's say the hypothetical trade that everybody wants to see, it's like a Jared Allen switch. Trey Murphy III starting as just a catch and shoot guy just changes the whole, because you can have Dejounte who want to get his stuff off. You can't have CJ who turned himself into a better catch and shoot guy, but still wants to get his stuff off. Zion obviously has to create, and Brandon. You can't have 4 shot creators on the court. At least with Trey Murphy, you look at him and be like, that is our spacer. He can create, but his role mostly is to get up 3-point shots. And I think that would just open up the team a little bit more.
Yeah, I see what you mean because like there's no fluidity with the offense. It seems like it's all just one. Here, your turn. Here, your turn.
And I pray that
I just
DeJounte
hate
can
that side.
provide some of that. That's not what he did in Atlanta. Let's be real.
Yeah.
He was a guy it was his turn, my turn. When it was my turn, I would create, and I'm Mike in 2K.
Yeah.
Well, I'm passing for an assist. I'm not passing to start the offense. And that's what he had turned into in Atlanta, right?
Absolutely. That's why I looked at him.
Pass first ball hog.
And that's not what that's what DeJounte was last season. And part of that was situational.
Absolutely.
But this is a team that, again, has so many other people that could create for themselves. We need him to be a point guard more than anything. And we know he can.
Yeah.
But he just has to flip that switch to do that.
I think that's something that he could do. I think once you show you could do something, but you go into a situation where you're not asked to do it, people can forget what you can do. Now he's going to a situation where he is the point guard and he can facilitate and he can run offense. I think that's going to be perfect. As Zion has a dude that he could pick and roll with and like find him and get him some easy looks. It's going to be. I think DeJounte is the perfect fit for the Pelicans.
I feel like it's been a long time since I've seen DeJounte just run an offense. I feel
Yeah.
like he's so good at just breaking down his man. That's where a lot of his assists come from. It's like, let me drop it down to the big or kick it out. It's not more so like heavy pick and roll.
What game did we watch together, DeJounte?
That was against
Celtics.
Celtics.
When he had
Celtics.
like 40-something.
Killing them.
He took
44.
40 shots and got
Yeah.
just did
Killing them
everything.
down the stretch.
Yeah.
That's something that he's going to be able to offer them too. You know what I mean? Somebody.
Yeah.
I didn't
down the
realize it
stretch.
was as bad as what it was because Woj's tweet was like they were 0-24 when they were going into the fourth
Yeah.
quarter down. Like, damn. You ain't had one fourth quarter comeback all season long. Obviously, DeJounte hit so many clutch shots that it's like he can provide some of that.